Thank you, Rochelle. So today's webinar is actually going to be a repeat of the webinar we did last month. So we're just going to be repeating some of the things as some people may have missed that particular webinar. So they may have had some questions that they wanted to have answered in real time. So we're going to go ahead and repeat the webinar, and I'm going to go through the slides again in regards to the new features with the security appliances in Nebula. So first off, we're going to talk about the new support for the Gold Security Pack licenses. We're going to talk about the 30-day service trial pack. Then we're going to talk about some of the new features in the gateway. We have our predefined routing that's been added, some new live tools for ping connectivity check, the domain supports for VPN for your site-to-site VPNs, and then we have geo-IP filtering for our inbound connections. So first, we're going to talk about the Gold Security Pack. Now, as you can see in this table here, we can see what the Gold Security Pack that we had for the ATP. So originally, when you bought an ATP, it came with a bundled Gold Security Pack license. With the USG Flex, there was only the content filtering by itself a la carte, or the individual UTM services that you can purchase for the USG Flex. Now we have added the Gold Security Pack that includes everything, also including the sandboxing and the DNS and URL threat filter that was previously exempt from the UTM side. On the UTM side, if you purchased a UTM on the USG Flex, there was only the URL threat filter, but now we are going to be adding in the DNS threat filter in the Gold Security Pack for the USG Flex series. Now, looking at the Security Pack licenses, we started supporting the Gold Security Pack for the USG Flex series back on October 17th of last year. When looking at the two versions, there's the on-premise mode where you're using the device in standalone, and then we have our Nebula Cloud version where you're using the Flex in the cloud. And you can see what is supported. So between both of these, there's some slight differences. If you have the on-prem and you use the Gold Security Pack, you won't have the support for the Nebula Professional Pack because in on-premise mode, you do not connect to Nebula. Because there's also the security profile sync that's also available in Nebula, in your on-premise mode, you do not have access to that because it is a Nebula feature. However, if you were to move the device from on-prem to cloud mode, you will gain those features for having the Nebula Professional Pack and then also your security profile sync. What you do lose, though, is the email security option in Nebula Cloud, as that is not available as of this recording. So let's talk about the actual add-ons themselves. So with the bundled licenses, you also have licenses that can be renewed or extended by purchasing the add-on licenses. So here in this table, we have a list of licenses and which firewall model that license can be used on. So our Gold Security Pack can be used on the ATP and the USG Flex. However, the Gold Security Pack is not applicable to the USG 20, 20W, and the Flex 50 series. So you will not be able to use the Gold Security Pack on those particular models. However, if you have a USG Flex 100 and above, you can apply the Gold Security Pack to the USG Flex. And then, of course, we still have our UTM Security Pack, and then we have our content filtering pack that is by itself, used for the USG 20, 20W, and the Flex 50. We have our secure Wi-Fi that's available on the USG Flex, right? So you'll see that the secure Wi-Fi is actually a part of, in the ATP, it's part of the Gold Security Pack, so that's why it's not listed here, because the Gold Security Pack contains all of these options here. And then, of course, with USG Flex, you get Nebula Pro Pack. You can choose Pro Pack or the Nebula Plus Pack when you have it in the cloud. Now, for the USG Gold Security Pack, now when it comes to doing a license transfer, okay, you can only transfer a license from the USG Flex to a Flex of the same model. That being said, you can only have a USG Flex of the same model that can be transferred over to. So for instance, if you have a USG Flex 100 and you have a Gold Security Pack on that particular device, but you need to transfer it to another device, say you did an RMA, or you want to apply a different unit or deploy a different unit same model to another customer, you can transfer the Gold Security Pack between like models. However, you cannot do it between the ATP and the Flex. So vice versa, you can't go from a USD Flex to an ATP when it comes to transferring the Gold Security Pack license. So that means that if you previously had an ATP and you had a Gold Security Pack, you will not be able to take that Gold Security Pack and transfer it to the USD Flex. It has to remain in the same line family. So let's look at some of the comparisons between the ATP and the USD Flex with the Gold Security Pack. Now, if you see here on the left, we have our USD Flex in the anti-malware section. And then on the right, we have the ATP series in the anti-malware section. You'll see on the right, when it comes to the scanning mode, there's stream mode, express, and hybrid. So if you remember in the previous trainings that we've done, the stream mode is going to be scanning the local database. Express mode is going to be scanning the external database. And then if you do hybrid mode is going to do both at the same time, meaning it will start with the stream mode to look for a specific signature. And if it cannot find it, it will use express mode. So you have both options that you can use at the same time. However, on the USD Flex series, you have either or. You cannot do both at the same time. So you only have the option to do either the local or the external scanning for the USD Flex. Now, let's talk about how different licenses are handled in Nebula. Licenses that have a lower priority, we see there's a different priority here. The lowest number priority is actually, sorry, it means the highest number. So 1 being the highest priority, then 2, then 3. This tells you exactly which security pack gets queued or consumed when adding it to an already existing consuming license structure that you have on your firewall. So we'll see that if you were to add the secure or the UTM security pack, that has a bundle and that has the highest priority. That means that if you were to add on the Gold Security Pack, because the UTM security pack has the highest priority, this gets used first and then the Gold Security Pack gets deferred. So here's an example. We have a UTM security pack that has been activated. It's been activated and its expiration date, the activation date was October 2nd. The expiration date is going to be November 1st because it has the 30-day trial on the UTM service pack. There's also a bundled 1-year license. So this particular instance, we have a bundled 1-year license that has the 30-day trial. So you have the 13 months. So it activates the 30-day trial first. Now, what ends up happening is you have your Nebula Professional Pack. But if we want to add a Gold Security Pack 7 days later, this is what ends up happening. So your 30-day bundled license for the trial will remain active because it's already in an active status and it has a priority of 1. Your bundled 1-year license is queued, meaning that it will activate once the 30-day trial is over. However, you've added on a Gold Security Pack and it's been deferred until 1 year later because it has a priority of 3. This means that you have to consume your UTM security pack first before the Gold Security Pack becomes active. So that you can understand that means that when you already have a UTM service pack enabled and active in your license queue, and it's already been activated, and you add on a Gold Security Pack, because the Gold Security Pack has a lower priority, it will be deferred until the first bundled license or your UTM service pack license has been exhausted. Now, when it comes to the USD Flex series, there's different model numbers. You'll see that it comes in a variant. So if you look at the SKU number, you'll see that there is a 0102F and a 0101F. When it comes to the USD Flex series, the 0102F SKU includes the trial of the UTM security pack. It includes a Nebula Professional Pack, and it also includes the 1-year UTM Security Pack with the Professional Pack for Nebula. The USG Flex series with the SKU 0101F only include the trial for the UTM Security Pack and then the trial for the Professional Pack. So that means that if you're going to be purchasing a device with the USG Flex and you want to use the Gold Security Pack, it is best to choose the SKU that has 0101F because it only has the 30-day trial for the UTM Security Pack. That means that you can add on the Gold Security Pack on top of this, and then once the trial has finished, it will automatically activate the Gold Security Pack if you need those features. If you were to go with the 0102F variant with the SKU, you would have to wait until the full year of UTM Security Pack services has been exhausted before your add-on of the Gold Security Pack becomes enabled. Now, when it comes to this, we have our adding gold to the USG Flex bundle with 0102F. So NCC provides gold security services with sandboxing, DNS, threat filtering, and IP reputation as long as that gold security pack remains assigned to the unit. So that means that you will continue to get these options as long as you have the add-on assigned to the Flex unit. The cloud security will revoke the gold security services if you assign the gold security pack to another device. So that means that if you were to transfer the gold security pack from one USG Flex to another, you would then lose those services immediately from that firewall once it's been transferred. Okay? Now, just here's a warning here. We have the USG Flex in on-premise management mode cannot use gold security tier service while bundled with the UTM security pack at the same time. So that basically means that you cannot use the gold tier services while the UTM security pack is being consumed. Now, here's a quick little guide here that shows you exactly how it works on a chart. So we have the administrator that may purchase a gold security pack license when the device is consuming the UTM service pack. So here we have a gold security pack. What ends up happening is it will freeze the UTM and defer. So here we have our one-year add-on with gold and we have our one-year add-on with the UTM. So it's going to consume the UTM, and then once the UTM has been consumed, we will then use the gold security pack for that device. So now let's talk about the 30-day service trial pack for NCC. So this is a new feature that's been added to Nebula where we will automatically provide a 30-day trial service pack for a new Nebula organization. So if you were to create a new Nebula org, you will be automatically provided with a 30-day trial period for the licensed services. So those licensed services will include the Nebula Professional Pro Pack, Gold Security Pack Trial, the Content Filtering Pack Trial, the Secure Wi-Fi Trial, and then the Connect and Protect Trial as well. We also will provide a free MSP Pack trial service for newly created Nebula accounts. So if you were to create a new Nebula account today, you would not only get these features here as a trial, but you would also get the option to convert your NCC into the MSP version for a 30-day trial. To activate those services, what you'll see is when you look at your dashboard as you go ahead and start setting everything up, when you run through the wizard, you'll see a Go to Nebula dashboard, and then you'll have a notification. And if you want to activate those specific trial packs, all you would need to do is highlight and select which ones you would like to activate, and then click on OK. And then those services will then be activated. Now, do keep in mind that when it comes to these trials, once you've activated it for the first time, that's it. It cannot be undone. So if you decide to activate the Gold Security Trial Pack, and after 7 days you want to turn it off, you will not be able to, because once it is enabled, that is going to be it. Now, when it comes to your inventory page, you'll be able to see the trial license. So if you go to organization-wide, configure and license and inventory, this is how you can get to it as well for the trial, because there's a heading for the trial, and you can go ahead and check and see which ones have been activated, as they will be highlighted in green. Now, if you want to monitor what's the statuses of those services, you can then go back to that same page and it will tell you when the trial will expire or when the expiration date is. So when a device needs to be activated, or if you want to activate it, the card for that particular service will turn or be in green. Once you have activated it, it will turn orange and will list the expiration date. If you have canceled a trial in progress, it will be changed to this gray color and will tell you when the trial was canceled. And again, once you cancel it, you cannot undo this. And then finally, once the trial has expired, the card for that particular service will show a blue outline. Now, how to use these organization-wide trial package. The administrator may choose to activate each trial separately. So again, you can choose which ones you would like to activate, but then keep in mind that once it's been activated, that's it. For the lifetime of that organization, you will not be able to reactivate it or go back and reactivate after it's been canceled. Now, just remember that the security pack trials will give you access to security services for those models. So again, the Gold Security Pack trial will apply to the ATP and the USG Flex series, and the Content Filter Pack trial applies to the lower-end USG 20W VPN and the USG Flex 50W. Now, as of phase 15.1 in Nebula, we have the trial versus pro status. So what this means is we have two different statuses for your organization. So if you have an organization that was activated with the Nebula Professional Pro Pack, the trial services are no longer indicated as a trial status. So previously, when you activated the Nebula Pro Pack, it was set up as a trial, but it's no longer a trial status. Organizations that are active with the Nebula Pro Pack trial service, they simply access Pro Pack content in the base organization. So when you have the Pro Pack trial service, if you enable the trial service for your Pro Pack, you will have access to all of the Pro Pack features in the base organization status, because there's the base, there's Nebula Plus, and Nebula Pro. So it will still show that you'll have a base organization, but you'll have access to all of the Pro Pack features. If you want to manually upgrade the organization to Pro status, you can do it at any time while the Pro Pack trial service is still going on. So while you're still in the midst of your trial, you can activate a Pro status license at any time. When you upgrade to the Pro status and you're in the trial, it will cancel the trial service because you're activating an actual license. Now, when it comes to claiming the trial packs, you have up to 10 organizations within 90 days. That was what it was like before, because previously we had it set that you can only do trial packs on your first 10 organizations within the first 90 days of creating your account for the organization. Now we have changed it in phase 15.1 so that you can create as many organizations that you want with the trial package without any limit. So we have done away with the 90 days and the 10 trial organizations, and we've opened it up so that you can make as many as you want. Now, trial packs for organizations created before this new 15.1 phase, basically what ends up happening is the NCC Cloud will review all current and historical license activity in the org and gray out similar services that have been used before. So that means that if you previously had a trial before this new phase that came out, what ends up happening is you won't be able to reactivate those licenses. So if you already have consumed previous trials, even though we've made this update, you will not be able to reactivate those particular trials. Now, a service activated by a promotion can still be claimed as a respective trial. So that means that if we had a specific promotion that we had set aside, you would still be eligible to use those specific trial services. And finally, an organization may still claim a Pro Pack trial service if the org is using or has upgraded to the Plus or Pro or Plus Pack before, but not activated a trial organization status. So that means that if you've never activated your own trial org status. So if you haven't tried the trial for the organization itself, you will still be able to use some of the upgraded features for Nebula ProPack. Now, we also have the examples here. So an organization cannot claim the Nebula ProPack trial if an organization has used a trial organization. So that's what I was alluding to in the previous slide. Another option is organizations cannot claim a Nebula ProPack trial if the organization has upgraded to a ProPack before. So this basically means that if you previously had an organization in BasePack and about 6 months ago or a year ago you upgraded to ProPack, but it has since been downgraded because you did not keep up with the licensing structure, you will not be able to claim a ProPack trial because you've already have consumed a ProPack license previously. So there's no need for you to be able to use a trial because you've already consumed a ProPack for a full year. And then finally, an organization cannot claim Gold Security Pack trial if the firewall has consumed or expired or has consuming or expired a UTM Service Pack license event. So this basically means that if you are currently consuming a UTM security pack, if you already have the UTM service license already on the device itself, you won't be able to claim the Gold Security Pack trial until that device or until that security UTM trial has been consumed. Now let's take a look at our gateways and the new features within our firewalls. So we have new settings for predefined routing criteria for our routes. So whenever you create a policy route or a traffic shaping rule, we have it set up so that it's object-based, so it requires a source and destination address. Okay, so the address field in the routing rules usually support our manually entering an IP address or selecting an IP address of specific countries using the GeoIP from the drop-down list. So this means that you can create routes and then specify a source or destination based on GeoIP location filter or by putting an IP address. But now we've added in a new section to where you can select any for the IP address in the subnet mask. And we've also added a new feature for selecting a subnet of an existing LAN or VLAN interface. So what this means is when you go to create a policy rule or policy route under firewall, configure, and routing, and you add a new traffic shaping rule, you'll see here as our source, our options have been expanded. So not only do you have a list of IP by country using GeoIP filtering, we have the option to choose interfaces that have been created on the firewall already as address objects, or we can choose any. So this gives you the ability to lock down your routes to be more granular for security purposes. Next up, we have our live tools on the gateway, which is our LAN ping connectivity check. So previously, as our LAN ping tool, we can send the ICMP request to a source IP address using the selected interface. So you could choose which interface you'd like to select. You can choose the WAN, but now we've added a new feature to where we can also include the LAN and VLAN. So we can choose any local interface that's been created directly on the firewall. Any ping connectivity check coming from the LAN or VLAN interfaces does not go any SNAT when it's going out the firewall. So it's not going to do any source NAT address translation when it does a ping check. So now you can choose to ping specific devices. So you can ping from those particular devices if you want to. So if we want to ping from the WAN, we can. However, we can also do a ping from LAN or interfaces. So this means that if you get a call or a service, a service ticket where a customer has claimed that the traffic is not working, that it's not going out of the LAN, they're not getting internet access, you can go and actually run a ping connectivity check to see if traffic is traversing out to the internet from those particular interfaces. So this allows you to determine if there is an issue of packets being dropped or if there's some kind of connection issue where traffic is not going out from the LAN or a specific VLAN. So here we have in our application. So if we have an administrator that's investigating a VPN issue, they no longer need to connect to an end device on the LAN on the firewall to check because a security policy issue can be considered if only a specific LAN IP can reach the device across the tunnel. So what that means is that we can use the LAN connectivity ping check to ping an IP address across the VPN tunnel. So previously in the example, we were pinging google.com. However, if we want to check the status of the VPN tunnel, we can put, instead of google.com, we could put an IP address that's on the remote side of the VPN and send a ping out from the Nebula gateway to see if the tunnel is still up and running and if it can send a ping across the tunnel. Another thing we can do is for investigating routing issues. So that's usually what we end up seeing with specific things like pinging out to the internet. So in the example in the previous slide, we had google.com as the destination IP address or destination host that we want to ping to see if there's a routing issue. And we can use that to ping out to that specific address to see if we get a return on the route. So we have two different applications. You can check your routing by putting in a public IP address to check a specific interface on the local LAN side, or we can check specific applications like a VPN tunnel and ping a specific IP address on the remote side of the VPN tunnel. Now let's talk about the non-Nebula VPN peer domain name. So what we mean by a non-Nebula VPN is a device that is not a Nebula device that's being connected to on a VPN. So this means we're connecting up our firewall to a third-party gateway that supports IPsec VPN. However, when it comes to these type of things, if they're not in Nebula, they may have a public IP address with a dynamic LAN interface. So previously, before the last update, you had to put in the public IP address, and we did not support host names. So this basically means that if you were to use a DNS account with a host name, you wouldn't be able to plug that in this section because it required a public IP. But now we support both public IP addresses and we support a host name. So that means that the remote end of your public IP address, you can put in the host name of that particular remote connection, or for even your local side, if you want to put in a host name for your local IP address because it's dynamic. So this allows you to make sure or ensure that whenever the IP address on the remote end or on your side changes, it will automatically update with the proper IP address because it's tied to the host name. So now we support IPv4 and we support domain names for IPsec VPN tunnels. So you'll see here the implementation of the DDNS for non-Nebula peers. We can then put in their DDNS address if they're using a DDNS or a specific host name. So anytime it is updated, so first day here we see that they have a PPPoE connection. Here's their address. It's 67.75.111.21. However, the second day, or on day 2, their IP address changed because it's dynamically set. Because they have it set to DHCP, it's dynamically changed, and the IP address has dynamically changed. However, because we have it set to a DDNS host name, it's always going to record or report whatever the changed IP address is. So that way we can put that particular host name in for the VPN connection. And then finally here we have our GeoIP for inbound connections. So GeoIP for inbound connections is going to specifically apply to your NAT one-to-ones and your port forwarding, which is called virtual server. So previously, whenever you set up a virtual server, you would set up your WAN IP address as what the incoming interface was. We would choose whatever the public IP address is, the port that's going to be forwarded, the LAN IP address is being forwarded to. So here we have what's called port translation. In this example, we have the public IP address, the public port being 10,500, being triggered over to 443. Now, when it comes to allowing remote IP addresses, previously we only allowed for a specific IP, but now you can choose a country from the drop-down list. So that means that if you're making a virtual server rule, let's say that you have a host or a web server that you're servicing and it's local to your network and you want to expose it on port 443, you can define what IPs or countries are allowed to access that particular server. So if you want to, you can specify the country United States, And that means that all IP addresses in the United States will be able to access this particular web server on the public IP address on 443. When it comes to NAT one-to-one, if you want to do a NAT one-to-one, if you have a block of public IP addresses from your ISP and you want to bind that particular IP address to an internal web server, it's the same thing here. We can make a rule that allows the remote IP addresses so that we only apply it so that only IP addresses within the United States are allowed to access that web server. So you can just choose a specific CIDR IP address, CIDR or IP, or you can do a specific country to allow them to have access to that particular web server. And that's going to be it for today's training. I'm going to leave the floor open for questions.
Yeah, that was a very detailed explanation, Marcus. Thank you for that. And yes, we do have some questions here. First up, it's from Ned, and he or she wanted to know, can you transfer bundled licenses? And follow up to that, who would we contact about licensing issues?
So when it comes to transferring bundled licenses, you can transfer bundled licenses between like devices. However, you have to be the administrator of the organizations that you're transferring to. So if you are in organization A and organization B, but they're two separate clients and you need to transfer a license to a client from A to B, then yes, if you are the owner of both orgs, you are able to transfer those bundled licenses. Now, when it comes to helping to facilitate that, it will be best to contact our technical support team because they will help with that particular, they'll help you with getting that pushed through so that you can get that set up for the transfer.
Great. Okay, and next question is, are there plans to offer a configuration converter for the NSG to ATP/Flex?
Yes, actually, there is, I believe now, there is a new NSG converter that's available now. It was delayed for quite some time, but we do have one on our website. If you want, you can email me, marcush@zyxel.com, and then I can provide you with that link for the configuration tool.
Great. Next question, can we download configurations in Nebula?
Actually, as it turns out right now, no. So it's if you go from standalone, okay, if you have the device in standalone mode and you want to go into Nebula, when you go from standalone mode to Nebula, you lose your configuration. So the configuration gets completely wiped. But when it's in Nebula, you won't be able to download the configuration itself because the configs are stored in the cloud. Now, we do have options to where you can clone a configuration. So if you want to have the exact same config for another firewall and another organization, if you're part of the same organizations, we do have tools to clone specific sites so they have the exact same settings. And then you can tweak it from there. But as of right now, no, you cannot download the configuration firewalls in Nebula.
Got that. All right. Next question. Now that the Flex has most of the ATP features, what would drive a customer to choose one over the other?
So when it comes to the ATP versus the USG Flex, excuse me, sorry about that. So when it comes to the differences between the two, you'll find that the ATP has a little bit stronger hardware, whereas the USG Flex is like a little bit underneath it. The USG Flex has some features that the ATP does not. An example being that the Flex has the ability to do timed-based web authentication with dynamic accounting, whereas the ATP does not. So right now they're pretty much on par with each other, though, with the ATP having a stronger base hardware. But just know that the Flex is going to be kind of the newer device. It's going to be the one that we're mostly focusing on, as we have newer hardware coming out later on this year. So, the flex line is going to be where the focus is going to be. So moving forward, it's probably best to start looking at the USD flex line rather than the ATP.
Wonderful. All right. Last but not the least, the ATP series is good, but I am finding that some of my customers want multi-gig to protect themselves for future ISP upgrades. Are there any plans to offer this?
Yes, actually, we will be coming out with a new USG Flex variant, which does include multi-gig ports on the WAN side. So depending on what model you end up getting, the lower end models, I believe, have multi-gig on either 2 or 4 of the ports, and then there's also going to be variants with built-in PoE. So just going to be coming up on the horizon later on this year. We will have multi-gig up to 2.5 gigs for the WAN and for LAN interfaces as well.
Great, and that would be it, Marcus. And would you like to say something before we close the webinar?
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me directly at Marcus, HMARCUSH, at Zyxel.com. I know there was a question about the configuration utility converter, so please email me and I can provide a link to that configuration utility converter. So yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. We also have our tech support if you need to reach out for any technical issues that you may have. And then also, please reach out to your sales rep if you have any issues, or if you want to do any pre-sales, if you have any pre-sales questions or need to get information about hardware or our licensing, please reach out to your sales rep.
Wonderful. All right. And that concludes our webinar for today. Thank you again, Marcus, for detailed and excellent webinar. And we will see you guys on our next webinar. And don't forget to follow us on our social media, on LinkedIn. And that would be it. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.